everybody. It is Tony George and Griffin Murphy. No, this is not Gridiron Six Pack. This is the new launch of the Doc Sports Hoop Happy Hour. You know, unfortunately, we're not happy houring it right now. It's 10:30 in the morning on Friday,
Early.
but nonetheless, Griff, we're gonna run it up the poll again. The Gridiron Six Pack, 65% on the year. I hate to have to try and fill those shoes in basketball every week, but every Friday about noon, 12:30 Central, we'll have this up on Doc's YouTube page. Griff, we had a hell of a run in the football arena. Now we're switching gears to college and pro basketball.
Yes, sir, man. Couldn't be any more excited for this. Are you kidding me? Shifting gears, rolling right in. I can't wait. College basketball. We got March Madness coming up soon. Jacked up. Let's get it going.
And, of course, you'll notice Griff now is a resident of Las Vegas there, right down there off I-15. And I've been down to the Palacios pad across the street from Aria there. You are in the Mecca of sports betting now, Las Vegas, Nevada. How about that?
Oh, dude. Yeah, living the dream, man. It's beautiful here, too. Everything. I can't, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. Couldn't be happier with the move. It was time to get out of Arizona, the Devil's Den. It was done. I ended up in Sin City, but we're going to make the best out of it by all means. Sports handicapping hub. Love it, man.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, you move here to Las Vegas. I've been here 5 years. Back in Kansas City, when you're having a libation at 10:30 in the morning, watching a game, yelling at the TV because you have money on it, you are considered a degenerate gambler drunk. Out here, it's encouraged.
Everybody.
It's the only place in America they don't frown upon you. You know, matter of fact, if you're any good at it, you're admired and praised. You know, back in the Midwest, different story. Back in the Bible Belt. Nonetheless, what we're going to do, folks, but what we're going to do, folks, we don't have any lines on these games, but we're going to give you projected lines based on power ratings, sides, and we'll try and guess a total and kind of give you a range of what we feel when we're talking about marquee games. And that's different for me because 85% of my picks come out of non-Power 5 conferences, you know. And but nonetheless, we thought we'd highlight some of the biggest games of the weekend and kind of tell you what's going on. Of course, DocSports.com, that's the place to be. And right now, I am just cooking in college and pro basketball. I'm on a 17-5 run in college hoops off a 3-0 sweep on Thursday night with a top play hitting that one as well for you. My top play, UC Santa Barbara, was an underdog, and they won by 29 points. Straight up. Plus, I had Illinois, which was a blowout at 2.5. Yeah,
I had Michigan.
Easy money. Oh,
I had Michigan,
easy money. Then we had UMass Lowell laying 2.5, another blowout winner. I've got a small conference guru, Tim Fines, that kicks in his stuff. He helps me with WNBA, kind of a staff handicapper I have on board for hoops. And we're both just dialed in like a mofo right now, plus $3,645 to the good the last 30 days in college hoops. And Griff, I know you've been pounding some games. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm on a burner right now. And NBA in general, I'm on a 37-20 run. I want to say $5,100 profit right now in NBA. And college hoops, I want to say I'm 15-10. I dropped my top play last night with Michigan against Illinois. So that was kind of a little...
Sorry, I didn't know that.
I know, man. I know. That was a burner. The whole time I'm looking at just, whatever. Let it go. Let it go. We got to move on. We've got bigger and better games coming up. Huge weekend full of slate, so I'm looking forward to getting right back on track.
Well, listen to Master Yoda, young Skywalker. Michigan and that bad defense does not travel well.
No. Oh, man.
That's for sure.
Don't
well,
remind
this
me.
weekend here, This weekend here, we're going to have 4 or 5 picks up on the website. You get a free $60. Link up there. Just go to the website, and on the upper left-hand corner, there's a tab. They'll park $60 in any new account. No strings, no hassles, and that does come with the profit guarantee. So if you have any questions about that, either call customer service. Yes, Doc Sports, we're old school. We've been around 52 years. We have actual live customer service that actually helps you and doesn't try and sell you a bunch of crap. We have
Oh yeah.
live customer service, which is very rare, and it's effective. Unlike calling, let's see, DirecTV or AT&T or Verizon or any of these other places you got to call to get something done. You got to go through 15 different robots before you get to somebody who, quite frankly, cannot speak the language very well. No, you call up, we'll help you. So if you have any questions about any of that, this weekend I'm going to open up with the Big 12 game, Griff.
Sure.
University of Central Florida is at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Houston's slipped and fallen recently a little bit. There's a few chinks in the armor. Now, when you look, and most people use the barometer of KenPom for their power ratings and this, that, and the other. And in this game right now, KenPom has this power rated at -22, Houston, on the power rating differential. I've got it a little closer than that, but this is going to be, I'm assuming this is going to be a double-digit spread. I mean, it's going to be 15 or higher, and we're talking about a Central Florida team, that's beaten Texas and Kansas this year.
Right.
And Houston's kind of slip and fall a little bit. Obviously, Shed and Sharp for Houston, they're no joke. They got some great players. Sampson's a good coach. But you're talking about a Central Florida team here, 7-3 straight up and against the spread, their last 10 games. And obviously, with wins over Texas and Kansas, they're catching some midseason form right now that maybe their overall record isn't reflecting. And Houston, 2 of their last 3 games were losses to Houston and your old alma mater, Iowa State.
Yep.
I know you went there for 1 year before you flunked out and then got into sports handicapping.
Thanks, Mal.
But it's interesting in this series, when I was looking at this series, these guys were came from the same conference, so they have a long series history. And going back the last 10 games, Houston 9-1 straight up, but interesting, only 2-8 against the spread. Yeah.
It's a weird one for me, Tony, because, I really do like backing up Kevin Sampson. This guy's overall record as a coach, 247-76. I mean, how much better does it get? And they've really got a prime player with LJ Cryer. This kid is averaging right now 15 points per game. He bangs not only from the perimeter, but he's solid in the paint. And with Houston right now, and that's kind of why I could understand where this line is kind of magnet into double digits, is the fact that this is the #1 defense in all of college hoops right now. They are ranked first in defensive efficiency. So looking at this game, it's understandable. But UCF, on the other hand, they're a completely divergent team. They run a very high-tempo offense, slow and controlled. Their defense is their primary focus. So it's very weird for me because UCF does have 2 legitimate road losses. I love the fact that Houston is 10-0 at home. UCF, they have 2 legitimate road losses, and that's against Miami and Kansas State. So this one's kind of mapped out pretty weird. Who's the better team in this game? Well, there's no question about it. We know Houston's a better team. But UCF, they're hanging in. They're playing good basketball right now, Tony. So this one could be a nightmare coming in for UCF right now. Laying double digits, I don't love it. UCF definitely doesn't take this game over Houston outright. There's absolutely no way. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one right now. It's very hard for me to go against a team that's undefeated at home. So that's kind of where I kind of look at this game, and it's like, well, there's a reason there's double digits, and I think it's the fact that Houston had that 2-game little minor slip up, and now I think they're back on track after picking up a victory over, I think it was Texas Tech, and I think they rolled the crap out of them, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I'm leaning on Houston in this game just because the line looks fishy to me. That's my take on this one right now, Tony.
Yeah, I think if they're laying a huge number like over 18, I'd take a look at Central. The thing about Central Florida is they've really got one superstar player, and that's it, where Houston's got more spread around. But I think
Sure.
if you can get this, if this totals around higher than 130-ish or higher, I'd take a look at the under too. I mean,
Mhm.
because Houston's defense is, it's really an interesting dichotomy in the way these two teams play. One's way high up tempo, the other one's slow,
Yep.
methodical, that plays really tight. Anytime Sampson was coaching, even when he was at Oklahoma, Indiana, whatever, wherever, that
Man
guy
to
played
man.
defense. They get
Yes.
up on your face, man. They play a lot of man to man. They challenge every shot on the floor. They can make the inside game a little bit of a nightmare for you as well.
Right.
Um, I watched them play Iowa State, and that was just they implode. They can have moments where they just don't play well if it's
And
not clicking. You know,
dating back to last season. You seen it last season towards the end of the year. And they finished their year going 33-4, but there were a lot of games that were really close that they were just kind of trickling around with. So I
yeah,
completely agree. They're one of those head case type of teams. They always find a way to pull out that victory, but against the spread, it's kind of always one of those trickery. They either blow them the crap out or they don't cover. And it's one of those nail
yeah,
biter finishes. So that's kind of where I'm
yeah.
at with it too as well, Tony.
Let's switch gears to the SEC, and here we go. We got Alabama at Tennessee. This is going to be damn near a pick 'em ball game. Tennessee's 1 point better than Bama in the power ratings, and of course we have Rick Barnes, the butt clown head coach for the Tennessee Volunteers, who can't win a big game to save his life. One of the worst big game coaches in the history of college basketball. He did the same thing we had Kevin Durant at Texas. He couldn't even win the Big 12. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy, he is I do not like the guy,
See what he
but you
did with
got
Mississippi
Alabama.
State.
You got Alabama coming in here. Um, there's a lot of interesting. If you take a look at the SEC, Alabama in efficiency in the offensive side, they're number one in the SEC. Tennessee's number 3. I think it's real interesting that in this particular game here, you're catching Bama on the road. Now, Bama has had 3 really big tests this year,
Yep.
and they failed in all 3 of them: Purdue, Creighton, and Arizona. And here's one on the road. And I tell you what, Tennessee, now they got a hell. Rick Barnes is always, let me tell you something. The guy's a hell of a recruiter. He's got talent wherever he goes. He's got a loaded team this year. He's at home. They split last year. Both of them had good teams last year. They split last year, home and home. Both home teams won. This is going to be a really low spread. And of course, I said Alabama's failed in big spots this year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is another weird one, Tony, because obviously they just finished up with Mizzou on Tuesday, beat them by 20 points. But my biggest concern, Alabama's rolling into this game on a 6-game winning streak. That is something to always keep into accountability. The trend is always your friend. That is something to always pay attention to. But their star player, Mike Sears, rolled his ankle towards the end of that game. Now, how is he this is their guy. This kid averages 20 points per game. I mean, he's on boards, he's on assists. He does everything right for this team. That's their leader. And my entire breakdown in this game is, how healthy is this kid going to be coming into this game? Is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be 85%? Well, they haven't played since Tuesday, so I would assume he's going to be playing for sure. But how much is he going to bring to the table? And that's kind of where my breakdown and my pick'em comes into this play, because we already know Tennessee, once again, 9-0 at home. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games, all the way back, dating back to 2017. This has been one of the toughest clubs in all of college basketball. So, and they're always there. So looking at this game, I love the home court advantage in this game with Tennessee. And it's really going to come down to, is Sears going to play? And that's kind of where I'm at with this game, Tony. If Sears is full go 100%, well, I'm leaning with Bama. If he's not, I like Tennessee at home. That's kind of where I'm at in this game, Tony.
Well, one thing about this series dating back to January 10th of 2015. I don't even think were you even 16 years old in 2015, Griff?
I was 17.
There you go. Okay. Dating back. This series is 10-0 against the spread to the under.
Okay.
And you're probably going to be, I would say, projection-wise, you're going to be mid to high 150s in this game, especially if Sears is out. I'd be looking for the under here. These two teams are number 2 and number 4 in defensive efficiency in the SEC. So I might lean under here. And I always kind of like in a big game like this, I look for unders more than I do overs, unless it's two teams that are massively, hugely up tempo that don't play a lot of defense, But I don't see that here. I might lean towards the under here a little bit. It's going to be between, I'd say 155.5 to 160-ish. With the question mark on Sears, you're probably going to see more in that mid 150 range. I'd kind of lean under a little bit. Here we go in the ACC, folks. Clemson on the road at Florida State. We got two teams going in two different directions here, and yet Clemson's going to be laying 4 or 5 in this ball game, in my opinion. The power rating 6 in favor of Clemson, but Clemson, their last 5, 1-4 straight up against the spread, where Florida State's 5-0 straight up and against the spread. Florida State's playing some ball right now. Clemson's really good in the paint, inside of the 3-point range. They got a really high effective field goal percentage, especially for the 2-point range.
Yep.
You got Florida State's beatable. They're 7-3 at home, so they're not unbeatable there. The difference here is I've got a number 38 overall power rating on Clemson and a number 80 on Florida State, but you might be able to catch the odds makers sleeping here a little bit if they start putting a number on Clemson here, a big number. Anything over 3 or 4 on the road here may in fact come into play for the, maybe a. I'm not talking a home cover. I'm talking a live home dog.
Yeah. And I agree, man. I mean, Clemson, they are completely heading in a different direction. Clemson, as you just mentioned, 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. They're also 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they're 2-3 on the road this season. And the key thing for me with Clemson this season was their dynamic play at home last season. They were so good at home last season. This season, completely different. They are not playing good basketball at home right now. So that impacts into their record, and that's also taken into their road play, which is a huge thing. It's a huge factor. But they've got shooters, man, and I want to talk about one guy in particular, and that's PJ Hall. I mean, this guy's an absolute dog. He hits from the perimeter. He's nasty. His ball control, and they're a very well coached team. They average over 80 points a game. They move at a very slow pace, so they're very well coached. They manage the ball very well tempo. And then you look at FSU, they're currently on that 5-game winning streak. They're at home, as you mentioned. They're 7-3 at home. rocking a winning streak. They have a very credible coach. I mean, he's been with Oklahoma State, and he's been with University of Miami, and he's had association with the Wizards. They're divergent to Clemson. They move the ball at a very slow pace, and they're calm and collective. They don't attack the boards as heavy at all like Clemson does, but they play a much more zone defense. So for me, this is a really weird game, Tony, because I'd love to say I love Clemson in this game, but they aren't playing to the level that they should be playing at. And I think that has to do with the way they're playing at home. So how do I go against a team that's at home? They've won 5 straight games. They're playing very good basketball right now. So I'm leaning in towards Florida State in this matchup, Tony.
Yeah, I just like the way Florida State's playing right now.
Right.
They've been able to. They got some win. They beat up on Miami. They were and Notre Dame. They got a 9-point win, and both those were road games. And that's in and they also got a win over a pretty good Virginia Tech team that always gives people problems. They pounded Georgia Tech, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they lose to Lipscomb. I mean, so you kind of got to be careful with them. But Clemson, on the other hand, right now, they got into that Georgia Tech game. That was a 93-90 game, which tells me, oh yeah, and that was let's see, that was on the 16th.
You got time, yeah.
And of course, now that was an overtime game where they scored 41 points in overtime, but Georgia Tech's not all that. I really think, honestly, this might be an over game. If you can get this around 150-ish, this might go over. I think they can both get it going. I think they can at home. I had a question, and I know you got one in the Pac-12 you wanted to touch on. Somebody DM'd me over at Twitter that's been a longtime client of mine.
Sure.
He said, well, you wanted me to talk about the Mo Valley. Now, I'm known as a Mo Valley. I get a lot of plays out of the Missouri Valley. I'll just give you a general comment. The Missouri Valley's been very difficult to pick this year because it's very top-heavy, and then everybody else is just even, and none of them aren't that good. And when they're kind of there's a lot of parity, in this. You've got Murray State and Belmont in there now, but obviously Indiana State's the cream of the crop. Drake's right there, and Bradley. So it's kind of those three and everybody else. So when those three are playing anybody else, the spreads are so large that even on the road, that I'm a little gun shy of putting out a bunch of picks, in this conference. But we'll be getting into more of it. You're kind of at the point now where, you go through the non-conference schedule in college basketball, and it's a guessing game for the most part out of the gate. And then you get into the early season of the conference special, and and then you can kind of work on your numbers a little bit more in terms of honing your power ratings and getting all the efficiency ratings and stuff. But now you're in the meat and potatoes where teams have really established their identity, and you're able to count on some numbers, and the coaching and how they're still teams you can't put your finger on, like my Nebraska Cornhuskers, but at the end of the day, I think there's the Missouri Valley this year has been the most difficult year of the past 10 years for me to really come out with some super, super solid picks out of that conference. We still got plenty of time between now and the conference tournament. But we're going to wait. We may have one tomorrow as part of a 4 or 5 pack on Saturday, one I've got circled there. But Griff, I know you were kind of looking at the Pac-12. You had one you kind of had circled.
I was looking at Oregon and Utah. I don't love the game because I can't pull enough information regarding where this game's going to be, spread efficiency, how they're going to play, how Oregon's going to play at home in this game. So I wanted to touch up on it, but I just couldn't find enough for me. So I looked at it, I started breaking it down, and I'm like, you know what, man, I don't even want to get into this game because I don't even have a lean on it, whether it's a total or a play going south or left or right with this one, Tony. I just don't love the play. I don't love the game. I do like an NBA play that I would like to touch up on.
We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and talk on that. Let's just you know, Dane Altman is a really good coach, but
Mhm.
going on the road to Utah,
Right.
I don't know about that. They're probably going to be about a 6-point underdog in that one. Be honest with you, in my opinion. Uh,
And how does
Just
Oregon's how does their offense deal with it? How do you contain it? It's one of those games, and that's kind of where I backed off. I started looking at
yeah,
defense. I started looking at player versus player matchup. I started looking at how they run their defense. Are they going to run man or zone? And I started getting all crazy in my head with it. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a game that I'm just going to fade. I'm just not even going to mess with it. I'm not even going to talk with it. And I don't want to give anything out on the show right now and give everybody any misdirection leniency. So I
yeah.
kind of just wanted to back off of that one, Tony.
If you get Utah at 5 or under, I'd bet them just because they're the number one defense in the Pac-12 and Oregon's second from last. It's
Right.
interesting dichotomy because Oregon's number 2 behind Arizona in offense, but Utah's number 3 in offensive efficiency with the best defense against a crappy defense at home in the altitude. I'm not afraid of that one at all, Griff. But then again, I'm a seasoned veteran. I take if Utah, you can get them at 5.5 or under. They might be worth the stretch there. That's for sure. In the NBA, what and now listen, I'm on an 18-9 run in the NBA. I'm sitting around 63, 64% on the year, and I'm doing a very low volume basis. Um, I got beat up on Thursday night, believe it or not. I took Utah against Oklahoma City. Now, Alexander was iffy to play. He ended up playing. He went off. I mean, Alexander is a stud,
Oh
big
my
time for
God.
Oklahoma City. This guy is a top 6, 7 player in the league. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy is off the chain. And of course, Utah has just been hotter than a firecracker,
Hmm.
scoring 133 points a game their last 5. And so I got beat up on that. I was a 4-unit play. Um, I'm taking a pass here on Friday. I don't like the board. I kind of liked one a little bit, but I didn't want to press it off a loss. I'll live to fight another day. But there's some interesting games over the weekend, Griff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I was eyeing out the OKC Minnesota game. That was kind of a game I wanted to get into with Alexander in
Yeah,
general. The dude's
yeah,
averaging 31 points per game. They probably have right now, I want to say on the metric side of thing in points per game, they're ranked third. I think they have one of the most dynamic offenses in all of basketball right now. And you've got to think, though, they're rolling into Minnesota. They've got Anthony Edwards. I mean, you've got Towns, you've got Gobert. I mean, they're rolling right now. 17-2 at home right now, Minnesota. You want to talk about a
yeah.
season flip rule? I mean, come on, that is outstanding. They've won 4 games in a row. They're playing very good basketball, and they have the number 1 defense in all of the NBA right now. So it's a
Yeah.
really exciting game because we get to see how do they compare and how do they deal with Shai Alexander. Probably the most effective offensive player in the NBA right now. So I am really excited to see this game. I will say, I think OKC is going to roll into this game a little bit exhausted. They have been playing a lot. And it's kind of for when you look at Minnesota, they've been off for 2 days. They're not coming off a 4-game win streak, rolling back into Minnesota, and now they're ready to go. And you've got OKC coming into town. You've already got the momentum. You're playing ridiculous basketball at home. You've got the crowd behind you. So I really like Minnesota in this game. This was one of the games that I did want to give a lean out on because I like Minnesota heavy in this matchup.
Well, one thing I do in the NBA, uh, I said that last year when you don't know who's playing and everything else, you just don't know who's playing this load management bull crap. I really got discouraged with the NBA. So this year, my philosophy was I'm just going to hit situational spots only. There could be weeks I have 2 picks, and they might be
Right.
2 or 3 unit plays. There's other weeks where I thought the vast majority are going to be 4 to 6 to 7 unit plays. I'm going to have more of those than I am a 2 unit daily best bet in situational spots. And this is a situational spot in favor of Minnesota. You've got a team that's playing their 4th road game in 6 days. They're just
Yep.
coming from the altitude up in Utah, and they're playing a really good team who is physical on the defensive side of the ball against a road weary team. I think there's a
Yep.
huge advantage for Minnesota in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
And this line's going to be Minnesota might be laying 2.5, 3,
Yeah.
maybe, if that. The one thing I like about Oklahoma City, they're one of the better first half teams to bet on first half lines. They're at their last 3 games, they're averaging 63 points per game in the first half, and Minnesota only averaging 55.
It's
That
Alexander
looks like
flying
a
out, man.
yeah, and if I think maybe if you like Oklahoma City because they're hot and they're scoring, and this road trip they're only 1-2 on right now. They got beat by the Clippers and the Lakers,
Very
and then
good
they
squad.
and then they beat Utah. But coming off that Utah game here, I think you might be able to catch them first half, even catching a point, and bet them that way if you like them. But I wouldn't bet them for the full game. I think the second half it gets to them. I think that
Yeah.
fatigue factor sets in, and that defense of Minnesota sets in, and they're an awfully tough team to beat at home.
Oh yeah. Second best home record right now, I want to say, in the NBA behind the Celtics.
Yeah, yeah,
Unbeaten. 20-0.
yeah. There's there's so much to like about Minnesota in general this year. I mean, if you're counting them out of anything, even the playoff hunt, you're out of your mind. People don't pay that much attention to the T-Wolves. They're a damn good team, dude. I mean, they give everybody a ball game.
Oh yeah, and they have been, and they did not play this way last year, which is why it is so different. But the majority
Right.
of that was Towns was out the majority of last season, and now that he's back in the lineup, they are finally. It's that pick and roll with him and Edwards. I mean, they are really moving the ball up and down the court, and then you've got Gobert stuffing it up, playing phenomenal defense, and again. The home record is everything for me, Tony. And with Minnesota, they did not play like this in Minnesota last year. So now 17-2, you look at that number and you're just like, this is crazy. And if you're going to give me a -2.5 in this game, anything, money line, pick them all day, all day.
Yeah, and I would. That's one thing. Good point. If you got teams in the NBA or in college basketball that you like that are laying 2.5 or less, play the money line, take the points out of it. Ends up being 117, 116. Minnesota win. You laid 2.5, you lose. Play the money line, lay the -130, 135. This is interesting too. With Minnesota and waiting and in Oklahoma City on this road trip, bear in mind they're in the same division,
Yeah.
and right now Minnesota's got a 2-game lead on them. Then you got Denver, Utah, and of course Portland's just a bottom feeder right now.
Ugh.
But this is, and Utah's been coming on, so they're 1 game above 500. But you got a 30-11 team taking on a 28-13 team here. Yeah, and this is a game that they can put away, in division play and go up 3 on them here. This is a huge game for Minnesota, and I think they'll lying in wait, kind of in the bushes there. You get a cheap number on them. I mean, by the way, odds makers aren't stupid, so you don't know where they're going to open it up. But then
Right.
again, if you give a team like Oklahoma City 4 or 5 points, John Q. Public's going to pound them. That line will come down. If it opens up at 4 or 5, you want to wait and not jump on it and see if you can get that down 3.5, 3, maybe, depending on where they open this line up at. But I guarantee you one thing, Oklahoma City's not going to rest. They're going to want to try and win this game as a divisional opponent that's in front of them. So they're not going to be sitting Alexander out for load management. Plus, he's had a day off.
Yeah. And on top of that, just to slap off the finishing touch on that game, Minnesota did just recently, their most recent matchup was against one of the worst teams in the NBA right now, which is Memphis, who has Ja Morant out and Desmond Bane out. So that was kind of they won that game too. I think they beat them by 15. A lay down comfort game saying, you know what, we're going to relax here. Obviously, nobody comes into their games and relaxes, but it's not like we're coming in and we're playing the Celtics. We're not playing anybody at that, like the Clippers top tier team. So it's kind of like, all right, they've kind of been off for a few days now, really being able to accumulate for this matchup because this is the big one for them. They need this game. So yeah, just to touch up on that.
And just a quick note, I wanted to ask your thoughts on the Phoenix Suns. I know you're down from that area. Obviously, you live down there. Now that they've got Beal back and they've got Durant healthy and Booker healthy, they're not the same team they were to start the beginning of the season.
Not at all. Not at all. And they're playing like it right now, especially with Booker back right now. I mean, the team's scoring points, Tony. They're scoring, and they weren't. Right now, their pace of play too, especially, that was the biggest thing for them, and that was without Beal and Booker out. Now they're starting to move the ball. They're starting to all come together, and you could see it day in, day out. What are they? I want to say they're in their last 10 games. They're 7-3. Yeah, on a 3-game win streak. This team is finally putting it together, which is pivotal for them. And now they've got to deal with the Pelicans team. Listen, New Orleans is no joke by any means, especially with Zion. So this is going to be another game for me that I really am. I don't touch the Suns because I have an emotional attachment with them. Obviously, I lived in Phoenix, and I don't like to bet on my teams like that. You'll see me bet on my Chicago Bears from time to time, but I've learned my lesson enough times to where don't get any emotional attachments when you're picking your games, you're betting your games by any means. So with the Suns, you're never going to find me sending out huge plays on them. But the way they're playing now, they have really picked it up from where they were to where they are now.
And you're at the point in time now in the season, folks, in both, and I'll just make a general comment, we'll get out of here, and you can touch on it if you want, Griff. Quit looking at season-long stats. We're far enough into the NBA and the college basketball season, you want to look at recent form. You know, it's no different in Major League Baseball either. You know, you don't want to look at season stats on a pitcher. You want to look at his last 3 starts when they're 80 games into the season. You know, you want to know where they're at right here, right now. And Phoenix is a perfect example. What you saw the first 20 games is not what you're getting now.
Metrics are not accurate.
Want to look at right. And most of these sites that you can go to look up your numbers and stuff, they'll say last 5. And you want to get in like last 5 and look at where they're at right here, right now. And the teams you want to put your money on are the ones that are consistent. They were ranked in the top 20 in offense from out of the gate. And, 15 games into a college basketball season, they're still ranked in the top 20. The teams that are establishing consistency and identity are the teams that if you're laying points with, those are the guys you want, But at the end of the day, a team like Phoenix, you want to start looking at recent stats versus season long because now they're gaining some momentum. That's just, I do that in college and pro. I do that in almost every sport, Griff.
Yeah, Tony, I'm the same. I love that you eyed that out because that is truthfully one of the key ingredients to picking games is checking how they've been performing. I trade the markets as well, so that's kind of one of the things for me. I have to keep up with real-time data. I need to know how are they performing in their last 10 games? Are they trending upwards? Are they trending downwards? Who have they played in their last 10 games? What are the probabilities in this matchup? How can we find that edge based on how they're performing and who they played against and who did they play against? So there's so many different ways to go about it, but it's all real-time data. How how is everybody playing as a whole? And once you can find that out, say they're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're playing a team that's 3-7 in their last 10. Well, you have to check the matchups. You have to check were they on the road, were they at home, etc. But it's all a trend-based thing, and that's the biggest thing. So I love that you mentioned that. That's where I'm at with it, Tony.
And that plays right into the hands of the Clemson Florida State game. Right here, right now, Florida State's playing great. Clemson sucks. They're probably going to be laying a number on the road. FYI, folks, probably the best if you can get Florida State catching a number of those 3 games that we talked about, you know, that plays right into that philosophy. Griff, we got the NFL playoffs this weekend. We got college hoops. We got NBA. I may have a PGA pick. Now, last week, you and I gathered down at the Circa for the Kansas City game of the year I had.
Yes, we did.
In the NFL playoffs. And we got some playoff action going on this week. And I'm sure we'll be, we can hook up for a game and then have the college hoops on the side. So going to be a great weekend in the NFL and college basketball and the NBA as well, folks. This is Doc Sports Hoop Happy Hour. This was our debut show. Leave your comments, what you think in the comments section. We'll filter them out, all the haters and the F-bombs. And we're hopeful that you tune in each and every week. And, of course, Griff, big plans for the weekend. This is your first official weekend in Las Vegas as a resident. Is it just housekeeping? You're going to be hitting the town?
No, man. I'm going to catch some games. But moving in and getting all of my stuff together, you know, getting the apartments, everything, I'm done. I'm done, man. I need a break. If anything, I'll have some drinks for the football games. You know, I'll hit up Circa or wherever I end up. But it's going to be a much more calm weekend this weekend. I don't think I'm going to be getting after anything too crazy this weekend, Tony.
You may have to come out to my local dive watering hole, watch a game or two. It's cheaper. It's easier.
Then we're talking different.
Probably some of the best chicken wings you're going to find in Las Vegas too. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. For Griff Murphy, I'm Tony George. Get over to Docs, get yourself some winners. Thumbs up, subscribe, all those good things. Griff, Vernon Croy, Indian Cowboy, August Young, who else? Everybody a lot of the guys over at Docs put up free picks on a daily basis here on YouTube. So when you subscribe, you'll get a notification when those freebies are coming your way. So be sure and do that as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks, guys.